Let's go, Uncle Money.
Thank you all for coming. This event is sponsored by Gamma Phi Delta Sorority Incorporated. It was advertised on social media, including meetup.com, the Atlanta Movers and Shakers. I'm Tasha Mack, the organizer of that group. Today, our presentation is on financial planning, and we have Mr. Randall Avery here with us. Before he begins to speak, let me tell you a little bit about him. Mr. Avery earned his Bachelor of Business Administration and Finance degree from Georgia State University, as well as a Bachelor of Business Administration Accounting degree from that university. He has worked as an audit associate at Georgia Pacific, a financial analyst at Autotrader.com, a senior financial analyst at First Data Corporation, as well as a senior financial analyst at Turner Broadcasting, and then as a financial planning and analysis analyst at Investo Atlanta, Georgia. Now, he's currently the principal of RSA Deasil Advisors, and he is here to talk with us today about financial planning. Thank you, Mr. Avery.
Thank you for that introduction. First of all, I'm always excited when I can get a group of people together that want to hear about financial literacy. The fact that you guys took your Saturday afternoon, it's a nice day outside, and you guys came in here to listen to this, that's a big deal. It shows, your dedication either to the organization or to gaining this content. So my goal today is to actually give you guys something of value. Quick question, was the handouts passed out by chance?
Yes, they
Okay,
have
so
the
everybody has
handouts.
Okay, so on the handout, it has two sides. One of the sides of the handouts is what's called the wealth life cycle. And what I want you to do with that sheet is, I just don't want to stand up here and spit some facts out and sound smart. I really want you guys to take something home with you that you can apply to your lives or apply to your loved ones' lives. So that's what I really want that space to be about. Really something that's applicable to you. Today we're going to talk about something that people don't traditionally think financial advisors talk about. We're going to talk about life transitions, okay? When somebody thinks of a financial advisor, they think of investments, they think of insurance, they think of underwriting things, but they don't really think about how we help with managing life transitions. As we all know, life can be tough. Things can happen to us. Jobs can be lost. Families can grow, families can shrink, and all those different things. So how does a financial advisor help you move through those points to ensure that you continue to grow your wealth? That's what we're going to talk about today. Because she did an excellent introduction, we're going to breeze through this part, a little bit about my background. The only thing that she may have missed on is that I do have my Series 65 license. That's a securities license. Coupled with being registered with the Secretary of State, that allows me to provide financial advice. In the state of Georgia, you just can't say buy this security, sell this security. You do have to be licensed to do that, which makes a big difference from a traditional financial advisor who may be selling insurance products versus somebody who's going to truly be your advocate. So one of the questions may be, why did I get into this business? My last company I worked for was Invesco, and you guys may know Invesco is one of the world's largest independent investment management firms. There's a couple things I learned there. First thing that I learned there is they were being taken care of financially. They were taking care of me financially. But when I looked around, my friends, my family members, individuals in my community were not given the financial advice they needed to succeed. Even worse, they became prey to things like payday lenders, annuity salesmen, insurance salesmen. So they don't really have the guidebook to gain their wealth. So that's why I decided to open up my own IRA, specifically tailored toward that market. That's why I'm here today, and I get the opportunity to speak what I've learned and the experiences through myself and my clients, which I hope you guys will find valuable. The question I get all the time is, what is wealth management? It's something that's not traditionally taught in our community. And I usually talk about wealth management into 5 bullet points, but I break it down to one just for this discussion and for time. The goal of wealth management is to sustainably grow my clients' long-term wealth. So I have clients that are just getting into college, just getting out of college, mid-career level, late career level, and even clients in retirement where all we talk about is where to divest their assets either to their kids and loved ones. So when I bring on a new client, I can help them through those life transitions. And you'll see how important those life transitions are directly affects your wealth. Now, with all my lectures, with all my clients, I live by one principle. That's Proverbs 4:7. And it says, with all thy getting, My clients work with me. If you guys listen to a lecture, you guys hopefully are going to receive something. Make sure you get understanding. Understand, because I won't be able to be in every situation with you guys. But if I give you guys a nugget and a problem comes, you guys know how to pivot and adjust. So really make sure you leave something today so it can be worth all of our times. All right? I start all my lectures with vocabulary. I think a lot of controversy, a lot of things, the disagreements really boil down to we may be talking about the same things, but we're really talking about the nuances that really don't mean that much. So there's two vocabulary words that all financial advisors deal with. Okay? The first word is called human capital. Human capital is your skills, talents, the things that you use to produce income. Okay, so if you're a good speaker, if you're a good writer, if you're good administrator, if you're good in business, everything that you were God-given and what you have developed over your life is used to produce income. The second vocabulary word is financial capital. Financial capital pretty much sounds what it is. It's money used to buy goods and services and, more importantly, provide yourself with financial freedom and financial security. And I think the key word there is security, all right? Now I want everybody to pull out that sheet of paper where it said the wealth life cycle, if you don't mind. Okay? This is going to be our discussion point. It's really what we're going to hammer in throughout this lecture. So this is where you can jot down notes and really take away different things. When we talk about money, we talk about growing individuals' wealth. One of the factors that we have to consider besides those two vocabulary words is time. Time tells you a lot. It tells you how patient you can be, how long you have to manifest something. It also tells you what options are available to you. So for all my clients, time is something that we have to directly deal with. The second factor is, of course, wealth. What you have accumulated and what you have at your disposal to build wealth. The first vocabulary word that we discussed today was human capital, okay? The first part of your life, you're pretty much building up your skills, talents, know-how, obtaining training, okay? But over time, your human capital actually begins to decline. Can anybody tell me why human capital declines over time? Yes.
People stop learning.
People stop learning. That's a big thing. Anything else?
The skill sets become obsolete.
Obsolete. That's really good. Anything else? Maybe you actually lose the desire to work anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe the people you find yourself working around, you don't want to work around anymore. You just get disenfranchised with different things. These are reasons why your human capital goes down. Now, we all have a choice. We can make sure our skills don't become obsolescent, okay? We can make sure that we continue to learn to continue that human capital stretched out. So one of the value points for all my clients is, how do I stretch out their human capital? Because hopefully as they expend their human capital, their financial capital should be increasing to provide financial security. And of course, we all hope to reach that time where we don't have to work anymore, which is called retirement. Now, we have to understand retirement is shifting in our culture. If you make it to age 60 and you're in fairly good health, you don't have a terminal illness, there's a good chance you can live all the way to age 90. And if you retire at 60, that means a third of your life you're spending not working. Planning for that. Retiring with, as some people say, retiring with dignity. Not being a burden on your loved ones and not having to only deal with government assistance. I think that's something a lot of people would like to strive for. So that's something that we truly do need to plan. And I don't think this might get cut off on the screen, but unfortunately it's appointed to all of us to die once, right? And then comes the judgment. But that's not the end of the story when we talk about wealth. What we really are talking about is the next generation. Really trying to figure out how we're going to pass down wealth and what does that really look like for us. That's the wealth life cycle. What we're going to talk about within this wealth life cycle are the transition points, and there are going to be 6 transitions that we're going to cover. There's so many other different transitions. But when I thought about this lecture, I'm like, what is something that you guys can grasp, go home, and use tomorrow, or share with somebody else at a different time? So that's what we're really trying to focus on. So the first thing is pre-college and college. What are the things we should be discussing to build up that human capital? The second portion is early working years. What are some things we should be thinking about? What are the things that we should be told? Family planning, and as we can see, or you probably can't see, family planning actually extends sometimes into college because things happen, right? And family planning also is considered all the way up to we pass and even beyond that point. Pre-retirement years, that's something we need to be prepared for. What are the steps we should be taking? What are the things we should be thinking about? Retirement, and I think the last part, and maybe the thing that we don't discuss more down below, is legacy. What are we leaving behind? And how did all those things mesh together, okay? So first we're going to talk about, pre-college and college years. So when we talk about this, we're talking about rearing up a child. And a lot of people, when they think about raising kids, it's really about making sure that they're good people. And that's important. Nobody can discount that. But from a financial advisor standpoint, when I work with clients, the question is, how can we make sure that they can provide for themselves economically? Because we know we can't 100% depend on the school system. Even, all the way to 12 through K, even in college, they are not going to provide them with a job and means to provide for themselves. So that's really what we're talking about here. So the first one is going to be skill discovery. We should not wait till college for the kid to understand what they're good at, what their talents are. It should be incumbent upon the community, family members, and parents to really drill out what is this individual good at, not only for the kid's sake, but for really the benefit of society. So really understanding what they're good at. And you'll find out throughout this lecture, if you skip one of these steps, that's where the pain point comes in our lives, and that's when we produce bad habits that result actually in bad spending habits. The next thing is actually work experience. And a lot of people think of work experience as getting your first-time job at Kroger or at McDonald's, but what we're really talking about here is work experience that relates to their skills, right? I do a lot of mock interviews at different high schools, and one of the kids came to me and they said, I like that criminal stuff, I want to test DNA and all those other things. But I sat down with them and I asked them, do you know anybody who does that? Do you know anybody who looks like you that does that? And it's not to discourage them, it's for to say, hey, if you know somebody, they can tell you where to go, why to go, and how to react when different situations come your way. It could be as simple as go to the right school. It could be as simple as go to the right program and get yourself involved. The next one, which you can't see on this screen, but it's really understanding their passion, purpose, eventually to produce profit. So we can go all the way to we're 40 and not understand our passion, right? And that happens, that's life, it happens. And passion and purpose can shift over time. But before they turn 18, shouldn't this be one of our focal conversations? We have to argue that this is probably more important than the Pythagorean theorem, calculus. Maybe even better than language arts, really understanding who that individual are, because you can sidestep a world of hurt just by knowing this before you go to college. Now, before you go to college, there's one last thing. You guys can't read this, and I can't read this, but it's the student loan epidemic, right? We have trillions of dollars of student loan debt. So who in here has student loan debt, okay? And I understand that one of the criteria for this organization, you have to have a college degree, and if you have a master's degree, who wish they only had 5 figures worth of student loan debt, right? If we're being honest here. And this article says, move back home. Kids today are so lazy and irresponsible. Your mother and I started out with nothing. And the 30, 20-something-year-old said, I wish I had nothing to start out with. So when we know this to be true, when we're preparing our kids, we really have to talk about this. So for all my clients, for all their kids who are about to go to college, I do something very simple, but it's very powerful. I sit down with them and I make the child say, hey, go find out how much it costs to go to that school you want to go. Multiply that times 4, more than likely 5. That's the amount you're paying for this degree. What are you going to do with it? What is the income? My recommendation is the total amount of student loan debt that you take on should not exceed your first year's salary. You might say, how does that happen? Sometimes that means working a little bit beforehand. Sometimes that means working at the same time you go to school. But this burden, this is not fun. So we really are trying to love. We're really trying to care. We just can't send them off to certain universities without really understanding this dynamic. So about college. Everybody here has been to college, so we're going to go through this pretty fast. I tell all the kids, your first job in college is to get the job. You don't go to college for experience. As we just learned, you don't go to college to find yourself. Your job is to get the job. So having as many internships, as much experience is critically important. The next one is mentorship. Like I mentioned, find somebody who does what you do. Talk to them. Take them out. When you're young, who in here, if a young child asks to interview about what you do, would not spend that time? And this is really the only time where you can do that. So really talk to people that do what you do. And the last one is networking, and I want to take a little spin on this. Network with people outside of your normal circle, right? People have different resources, different connections. So really going out and when we talk to kids, really say, hey, go over there, hang out, do this organization, make yourself feel uncomfortable and really break down who you are and test what you believe. Because that's really how you grow. And you can even argue all these points may need to be done before they even go to college, before they pay $50,000 to $100,000 per year to go to school. And this is a tough lecture. And you might say this is not fair, but the world they're going into is not fair. You don't want them coming back home. Thanks, right? I mean, let's be honest, right?
Once you out, you out.
All right, so you guys are well past this point. Now we're going to talk about the early working years. So when we talk about early working years, just starting out, what we're talking about is somebody who received their degree, signed their first job, you're excited, you got your first check. But from a finance standpoint, the most important thing you can do is begin to save. And we're going to use the B word in finance, budgeting. Back in the day, we used to reconcile our checkbooks, right? Right now, we go into an online account and we can see our outstanding balance. The issue with not reconciling is you never know what you spent, why you spent it, your tendencies. Maybe it's Thursday the day you go out, so maybe I should bring my lunch on Thursday. Really understand who you are through this. Also, it has a predetermined allocation. How much am I saving, right? Building up that emergency fund. This is so important. And a lot of my clients, I purely just help them budget. And it's just having somebody there to help you be accountable. That's really important. The next thing is investing. I cannot tell you how many of my clients have been able to become millionaires just because somebody, when they were young, started out early, said, make sure you invest in your 401k. They didn't think about it. They probably didn't even know what they invested in. But that practice early on compounded so fast. So if you have somebody, you know somebody who's just starting out, be that person that say, hey, allocate here. Do this. That little bit makes a humongous difference. And the last part, slightly self-serving, is have a plan. It's your first job, your first time receiving real money, okay? If you did not traditionally grow up in a household that had a lot of wealth, think about having a plan and sitting down with somebody. It doesn't have to be a financial advisor. It could be an uncle that you trust with money. Just talk to somebody. You'll be amazed how much just communicating, how much communal knowledge just in this room would definitely affect your wealth trajectory. Next point. I'm about to really get in y'all business. Brace yourself. Lifestyle. The first thing I recommend all my clients who are trying to pay off debt, who are trying to reach some type of financial goal, is find an inexpensive hobby. You might say that's simple, but having something that is your outlet, that reduces your stress, that doesn't cost much. It could be something as simple as walking, painting, singing, any type of hobby that doesn't cost that much. If you find that early on in your life and nurture that, your outlets will not make you broke, okay? And let's talk about outlets that make people broke. Traveling, right? People come to me, and this is going to be a hard lecture. People come to me and they say, Randall, I need that time to decompress. But the problem is not that you need to travel. The problem is the lifestyle that you live when you are working that you have to adjust. If you don't have a natural rest within your working life, spending $3,000 is not going to solve the problem and financially makes it worse. You just added an extra stressor. So what do I mean by travel with a purpose? When you go out, make sure that that experience is literally compensating you. whether it's through learning, whether it's through some special type of relaxation. Make sure that experience puts money back in your pocket before you start spending those $3,000, $4,000 on different excursions. It's a challenge. It's a different way of thinking about things. But if we make that little step, we still may go to that same destination, but we're going to go with there a little bit different, right?
I thought he was going to say don't go nowhere.
Last point. Having a hobby that makes money. That graph and chart that you have in front of you, those lines are pretty, they're straight, colorful, but life doesn't work that way. Having a hobby to put money in your pocket is so valuable. So when you are having something, let's say you lose your job, you have a slight hedge, something that you're actually profiting off. And it's probably not as different as what you do on a day in and day out basis, but you're developing that skill to earn your own income. In the world of turnover, in the world of restructuring, in the world of job uncertainty, illness, right? We have to be able to earn our own money. It gives you that sense of security, purpose, and actually leverages your human capital because you're forced to do that learning. Right? All right. Rest of the lecture's repeats. Family planning, right? So when we talk about family planning, we're really talking about how do we manage our family in the sense of financial security, right? And there's so many topics, but there's one issue I believe moves the needle when we talk about wealth. And I think the number one thing is really where you buy your house. Your home is one of your biggest purchases. So taking a step back and being strategic about that home purchase can make a big difference. The easiest thing to do is your mortgage to income ratio. Make sure your mortgage is not taking more than 25% of your take-home pay, right? So if you make $4,000 per year, your mortgage, including property tax, homeowner association, all that, should not go above 25%, so it's $1,000, okay? Something that small, giving you that wiggle room. I've had many of clients, many of friends, or many experiences where they get in a house and it's a stress, it's a burden. They can't decorate, they can't enjoy it. It becomes literally a nightmare and a trap based off some predetermined idealization. If you have somebody in your life who's thinking about this, really just sit down and say, hey, 25%. I think it's a good idea. The next thing, school. If you plan on having a family, the school that they go to makes a difference. The quality of the education they get there, the supplemental education decision, private school versus public school, these decisions make a humongous difference. And last but not least is home appreciation potential. My parents have their house in Stone Mountain. Their home prices are not going to appreciate as much as it is in Brookhaven. Understand that. Understand the implication of that when it comes to financial planning. And know that you have to put maybe a little bit more in investing and sacrifice a little bit more. There's nothing wrong with any location. Just understand and do the number crunching, which I know naturally we don't want to do. Next part is insurance. And we'll go through this pretty fast. So, of course, life insurance. You're supposed to get 10 times your income. And what is life insurance? Life insurance is insurance that if you pass away, your loved ones can continue the lifestyle that you have for them, right? That amount of money should carry them all the way until 18, or so they can make a certain life adjustment. What people don't think about is disability insurance. And they say you will probably get disabled before you prematurely die. So making sure you have these products in place is important. As a fee-only advisor, I don't sell any of these products, so I'll leave them as V, but these are critically important to making sure your household is secure and stay, and you can sleep better at night. And I know traditionally in this community, we do not touch on these things. And even worse, we don't touch on the next subject, estate planning. Having a will in place. I think this is powerful. Last will and testament. What is your last wishes? What do you want to happen at the end of the day? Okay? And I think another thing people don't think about is your healthcare directives. How do you want your family members to see yourself when you get ill? Which everybody in this room has experienced. And I can say this without a shadow of a doubt. Families break up because these two things were not in place. The sad part is, and this happens even with my clients, I beg and plead, half my job is being a nag. They know that it's going to cause this type of cuff and separation, but facing death is something that we don't want to do. But when you think about love, and I approach everything with love, when you think about really caring about your family and really preparing them and not giving them the headache, you know, brothers and sisters fight all the time over this. You want your family to stay together. So definitely think about planning through these points. All right, you still with me?
With you.
Okay. Next one is pre-retirement, okay? So when we talk about pre-retirement, what we're really talking about is you're at a high level of income usually, okay? You're either making more than you usually have. And you start seeing some things happen. You begin to slow down a little bit, not as quick as you used to be. Like I mentioned before, you can't really relate to that next generation, okay? And your desire to contribute in that capacity, that high income capacity, goes down. I have a lot of people who say, you know, I want to retire and work for a nonprofit. You know, those things like that, but the capacity I'm in has taken its toll and season may be over with. So what are some of the things we have to do concerning there? And there's 4 things I really want to touch here. When you're in pre-retirement phase, you should be maxing out all of your retirement accounts as much as possible, okay? Really making that sacrifice go, because we have a little bit of time to make up a lot of lifestyle, okay? And what we're really talking about is that 30% of your life you're spending not working. So think about how much you need to save for that, okay? When we talk about our retirement accounts, we talk about if you have a 401k, if you have a Roth IRA, if you're eligible for that, if you're investing, really make sure you're putting as much as possible there. You'll appreciate that. Second part is expense. When you're in pre-retirement, this is the time you can strategically allocate your expenses. So what do I mean by that? Paying off your mortgage. Buying that car so you pay it off in retirement. Making sure your kids are set up. Making sure all the affairs in order so when you make that step in retirement, there's a level of confidence. It's going to be a little easy, okay? The next point is lifestyle, right? What does retirement look like for you? I have clients where they spend half their time on a cruise ship. Sounds nice. Might not be for somebody else. I have other clients where they want to stay at home with their grandchildren all the time. There's no right or wrong answer. Like I said, I approach everything with love. My job is to make sure that they can fund that lifestyle. So before you retire, figure out what you want to do, because that'll affect this top part, how much you contribute. Thinking about these things are really important. And the last part is, I really do recommend you do have a financial plan at this point. When we're talking about the amount of money you're shoveling into an IRA, when you talk about planning about lifestyle, having somebody to discuss through this. It doesn't have to be a traditional financial planner. It could be a family member, somebody who has been through retirement before, who you trust, and you feel like they're pretty good at money management. Have those conversations. Let's really just open our mouths up about finances, and it will move the needle. The next point is retirement, our golden years, right? So you should really feel like this when you're about getting retired, right? You should be happy. This is supposed to literally be a good time. You have afforded yourself the ability not to work. Hopefully you've afforded it and not forced. It can happen this way. But you should have that get up and go attitude about retirement. Now, this is a tough one. So when you retire, and I talk to retirees all the time because I really want to help my clients, you really have to find your new purpose. A lot of people's identity is tied up in their jobs, their associations, their network, and when they're retirement, they even lose, the networks of raising kids. They're not going to the ballpark anymore. There's more PTA meetings. So who am I when I retire? And thinking about that beforehand is important. You might even think about that through the early years of working. What does retirement look like for me? How am I stepping out? And what contribution I'm giving back? The worst thing you can do is sit at home watching CNN and Fox News. And we all have family members that have been through that, right? What happens? You get depressed, you get bitter, you get disconnected to society. And let me tell you, the secret fountain of youth is to hang out with the youth. So what are you providing to them that they may want to really stay young? The next point I really want people to work on is health. Okay? On average, they say you'll spend about $500 a month on health care in retirement. So have a plan. How am I going to stay active? How am I going to eat well? How am I going to protect my mental state? That goes back to purpose, right? Those things are important, right? Really thinking about and having a plan and not just walking into it and reacting. I think it's really important. And the next part, and last part, we're going to touch on this briefly, is legacy. So legacy is, what we talked about is what you do. I contribute to my 401k. I saved up for my child's education. But the question you have to ask yourself, and this goes through the whole timeline, is how you did it. How did I invest in my 401k? What labor did I do with my life? How did I give to my kids? Did I sacrifice not spending time with my kids to make that money? How you build wealth is just as important as building it. We know people who don't have a dime who are happy to death. And we know people who have a big old house, a maid, and are just miserable to death. We can find a happy medium. Somewhere in the middle, right? So that's what we really want to really shoot for. When we talk about wealth management, growing wealth, we really want to establish that, all right? So this is the thing I'm going to have to ask for you guys. I want everybody to pull out their phone if you're not recording.